Shalom guys, welcome back to another episode here. I just shop you ministries with Casas de Izhar. As you can see, my library has grown in a matter of a week exponentially. I have a lot of books now. I look like Rico, but I'm just kidding. I'm here at Wisdom and Torah Studios. Rico was generous enough to let me borrow his studio so I can record our teachings, and he's been willing to help me out a little bit, right? So if you're liking the content that we have on our channel and our videos, please like and subscribe. And if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please put them on the comment section down below. And with that being said, let's get started. So this week's Torah portion is Korah, right? And so right now, as we have been studying in our weekly portions, right now in the book of Bamidbar, we have seen a gradual snowball effect of the people of Israel in a way that morally they haven't been able to measure up to the standard that Elohim has set for them, right? Their disobedience and their you can say ungratefulness to Elohim's mercy and justice has piled up to last week. We saw that Elohim says that the generation that was able to see the miracles, the generation that was able to see the deliverance of the people of Israel, right, the fulfillment of prophecy, they were not going to be able to see the land because of their disobedience, right? They sent 12 spies, right, that they wanted to see the land, right? They wanted to inspect it. And so Elohim told Moses for himself to send 12 spies, so from each tribe, right, to basically scatter the land, scout the land, make sure that it flows milk and honey, and that they can prepare to go into the land, right? And so what the people of Israel encountered was that 10 spies out of the 12 decided to not only talk bad about the land, but say that they were willing to go back to Egypt, right? Because they were not going to be able to measure up to the giants of the land, right? They were not going to be able to go against the people that were in the land, forgetting that this whole time they have been protected, they have been taken care of by Elohim, right? If we go back to the Exodus, right, their deliverance was by Elohim, right, through Moses, right? Moses is the messenger of Elohim, right? He's the one that Elohim chose to complete this or fulfill this mission. But at the end of the day, Elohim is above everything, right? He's the one that's overseeing the whole operation, if you want to say it. So they forget that Elohim is the one delivering them, and in this Torah portion we see another aspect of the people of Israel seeing Moses and Aaron as the one taking control of the people, right? They insinuate in a way that Moses and Aaron are the ones deciding for themselves what the faith of the people was going to be, right? And one thing that I want you guys to understand is that what we learned from last week's Torah portion, what we learned in this book, and what we're going to learn today is that there's consequences, right? There's cause and effect, right? If you disobey, there is repercussions for that, right? And so the people of Israel right now, what we're going to see is that they have been given the ultimate judgment, which is you're not going to see the land, right? All of you that saw everything and then have lived in the desert this whole time will not see the land because of your disobedience, and your descendants will see it, right? So you will basically be 40 years in the desert based on the 40 days that you were in the land, overseeing it, and basically being the ones that were supposed to bring a positive report. Those 40 days that you wasted bringing a bad report and dishonoring the land, you were going to spend 40 years of those and die in the desert, and your children will see the land, right? And so now they're coping with this, that they have to basically live 40 years in the desert and die. And so now they're trying to find other ways, either to go to the land or sadly to go back to Egypt. So let's get started with the reading. So, number 16. It says, Now Korah, son of Izhar, son of Kohath, son of Levi, Dathan and Abiram, sons of Eliab, and On, son of Peleth, the descendants of Reuben, took 250 men from the Israelites, leaders of the community, summoned from the assembly, renowned men, and they confronted Moses. Right? They were assembled in front of Moses and Aaron, and they said to them, You take too much upon yourself. All of the community is holy, every one of them. And Yahweh is in their midst. So why do you raise yourself over the assembly of Yahweh? Right. So now, Korah and the leaders, right? Because we see that they're leaders. It's not anybody. Right. Korah has assembled and has basically gathered himself leaders to go against Moses and say that basically Moses and Aaron have put themselves above the people, and that they are the ones, like I said, casting these judgments. Right. So let's keep reading. And it says, when Moses heard this, he fell on his face, and he said to Korah and to his entire company, Tomorrow morning Yahweh will make known who is and who is holy, and he will bring him near to him. Whomever he chooses, he will bring near to him. Do this and take for yourselves censers. Korah and all your company tomorrow put fire in them and place incense on them before Yahweh. The man whom Yahweh chooses will be the one you take too much upon yourself, son of Levi. So, now, Moses is astonished that these leaders are turning on him, right? And if we see the trajectory of the story, right, from Exodus all the way till now, we see that every time Moses is the one interceding for people. Every time they sin, whether it was the golden calf, whether it was the complaint about not having water or food, right, the meat, even the 12 spies, right? Moses is always interceding for his people, right? And so them saying that Moses is basically taking advantage of them not only angers Moses, but it hurts him, because all he's been trying to do is make sure that his people are taken care of and that Elohim doesn't give up on them, right? And so Elohim gives them a way of establishing who he has chosen. And he says, Moses to Korah says, Please listen, son of Levi, it is too little for you that the God of Israel set you apart from the community of Israel to allow you to approach him, to do the work of the tabernacle of Yahweh, to stand before the community to serve them. He has allowed you to approach him, you with all your brothers, the descendants of Levi, but yet you also seek the priesthood. Therefore, you and your company that has banded together against Yahweh. So, in this commentary, we're going to see that who is Korah, right? Who is Korah, and why is it so important that his rebellion is set by example, right? Korah is from the descendant of Kohath, right? He's a Levi as well, right? They were he's the son of Izhar, and he had two other brothers, which is Nepheg and Sikri, right? And they were in charge of carrying the Ark of the Covenant, the menorah, and the items that were inside the tabernacle, right? So they had an important role in basically the transportation of Elohim's house, right? So many times we are so focused on what another person is doing, whether it be in our congregations or in our daily lives, and we forget that we have a function and we have a specific purpose individually, and that everybody has a role, right? And so instead of us focusing on mastering what Elohim has given us, the talent that he has given us, sometimes we think that we can oversee or take over other people's positions, and that leads to many people going astray. Why? Because when Elohim gives you a specific purpose and function, when you decide to choose something different or try to take somebody else's position, what you're doing is not only dishonoring Elohim, but you're basically dishonoring his gift to you by giving you a function and a purpose in his kingdom. Right? So this is what Korah right now is doing. He's demonstrating a type of jealousy and envy of Moses and Aaron by stating that they are basically taking advantage of the people. And so what they want is for themselves to be not only priests, right, but they want to be able to be in the midst of Elohim, right? They want to be able to talk to him the way that Aaron talks to him and the way that Moses talks to him. But we have to understand that there's a structure, right? There's hierarchy. Right? We cannot approach Elohim the way we want to, right? We cannot approach Elohim the way we decide to, right? There is a specific structure that we have to follow, right? And that's why it's very important when we study the book of Exodus and the book of Leviticus as well, because it shows us not only the purity but the holiness of Elohim and how we are meant to connect with him, right? And this is something very important in the ancient Near Eastern culture and in the time that the people of Israel are living, because gods were something that was very, very important in that time, and they were always used to focusing on how they can approach God, how can they connect with Elohim and make themselves part of creation, right? How can they be an important piece to this? And so Elohim has given us the blueprint to how to do that, right? And is in the Torah, right? The creator of heaven and earth, right, has given us the specific instructions for us, humanity, to gradually, little by little, reach a certain level of holiness that we can approach him, right? And we might not reach it completely, right, before the coming of Messiah, but like I've said before, it doesn't hurt to try. It doesn't hurt for you to do your best to understand that you have a function and a purpose, and that you shouldn't look to your neighbor to envy them and what they're doing, because you can each support each other in your own way, right? So that's what Korah is not doing right now, right? Korah is just angry that not only he is a son of Levi and he's holy, now he has to stay in the desert and basically die in the desert after everything that they have done. But like I said before, there's a cause and effect. There's repercussions for disobedience, right? And the people need to understand that when you disobey Elohim, you have to understand that there is a price that you will pay for disobedience, right? And so this is basically Elohim setting these leaders as an example, right? What is the best way to show your people that you are a just God? Is that not only the people get a judgment, but the leaders as well. And we each have to hold ourselves accountable for what we say, right? Because the people of Israel, in this snowball effect, right, have said many things that has not only dishonor Elohim, but dishonor his land and dishonor everything that he has done for the people, right? So we have to be grateful for everything that we have. So let's keep reading. So Moses sent to call for Dathan and Abiram, son of Eliab, but they said, "We will not come. It is too little that you have brought us from the land that flows with milk and honey to kill us in the desert, and that you also appointed yourself as the ruler over us. Surely you have not brought us to the land that flows with milk and honey, and you have not given us the inheritance of fields and vineyards. Will you gog out the eyes of these men? Will you not come?" So we see here that, well, I was telling you, they think that Moses is putting himself over the people, and as we see, Elohim chose Moses, right? Elohim was chosen. Moses was chosen by Elohim. Excuse me, right? So this is not, how do I say it? Leadership and leadership roles are not chosen by men. Like, you cannot just choose that you're going to be the leader of something, right? Elohim has to see that you are willing to represent him correctly, right? We have seen in religious circles and in everyday life. We see many leaders that say a lot of good stuff, right? They give you a lot of good things, but their fruits, their actions don't follow what they say, right? The good thing that Moses has is that Elohim saw that Moses was a man of his word. He was humble, right? We saw last portion that he was willing to die. He said, you know what, if you're gonna kill these people, just kill me. You have nothing else. He had nothing else. He was completely given to Elohim and the purpose. Right? He was focused on honoring Elohim and bringing his people to the land and fulfill what he had said to them when they came out of Egypt. And so this twist right now is showing that the people are not only frustrated, right? They're frustrated because they, like I said before, they're going to be in the desert. And so now they're trying to look for excuses, and they're trying to point the finger at somebody that is not Elohim. Right? They are trying to blame Moses, but they are not focusing on themselves. Right? And it's important that we do a self-inspection. Right? Majority of the time, we have certain problems, certain situations in our life, and we don't do our best to inspect our personal self, right? What we have inside, right? Sometimes we have things that are causing us to be disobedient or not follow Elohim the right way, and instead of us focusing on what we have to fix, we focus on other people and what their mistakes are, or what they have wrong, or what they're doing wrong. And at the end of the day, you have to fix yourself, right? Something that I have learned is that you have to make sure that your house is established, that you as a leader, as a man, right? I have me, I have a wife, I have a baby, and so I'm responsible for that, right? I'm responsible for teaching my son the best that I can, right? To be the best example I can, right? And I'm not perfect, and I am knowledgeable wise. I'm not at the level of the owner of all these books right here, but I'm really trying. I'm doing my best, right? Because I want to honor not only Elohim, but I want to give my son a good testimony. Meaning that he can see that as people of Elohim, there is a difference, right? We have not seen difference. We have seen, like I've said, many words spoken, good messages, but we have not seen a difference, right? And so one thing that I always teach my youth, right, and I tell them is that we have an opportunity to change many people's perception of what Elohim's kingdom is all about, right? Many people ask me, why have I changed so much? And it's because Elohim has been just with me, right? And he has been just with me because I've been obedient, right? I am not focusing on what people are not doing or doing wrong. I'm focusing on what can I do to be better, right? What can I do to honor him better, right? How can I grow, right? In my obedience, I try my best to serve him, right? In my congregation, if I have to teach the youth, I'll teach the youth. If I have to pick up trash, I'll pick up trash. If I have to greet people at the door, I'll greet people at the door, right? Everybody has a function, and everybody has a purpose in this. But when we start looking at other people and judging others and not inspecting ourselves, we find ourselves in a very tricky situation that we don't want to be in, especially when we are judging our leaders, right? Our leaders that are giving a great testimony and are giving a great example, and your sole purpose of having an opinion on them is because you don't like the way they teach, or you just don't like the way that they are, or whatever, or you can do it better than they can, then, or you feel like you have a better calling than they have, then that is a tricky situation, because you don't want to mess with the people that Elohim has chosen. And how do you know that somebody was chosen by Elohim? Is they're willing to stick to the Torah, if they believe in Yeshua as their Messiah, right? And if they hold themselves to that and have the testimony that can honor Elohim's word, then you have somebody that's willing to follow Elohim's word. So says, so Moses became angry, and he said to Yahweh, do not notice their grain offering. I have not offered one donkey from them, and I have not mistreated one of them. And Moses said to Korah, you and your entire company will be before Yahweh tomorrow, and you and Aaron, each one take his censer, and put the incense on it, and you will present it before Yahweh, and each of you will bring his censer, 250 censers, you and Aaron each his censer. So each of them took his censer, and they put fire on them, and they placed incense on them. They stood at the doorway of the tent of the assembly, and Moses and Aaron and Korah summoned them, the entire community, by the doorway of the tent of assembly. And the glory of Elohim appeared to all the community. And Yahweh spoke to Moses and Aaron, saying, separate yourself from the midst of these community, that I can destroy them in a moment. And they fell on their faces, and they said, Elohim, Elohim of the spirits of all flesh, will one man sin, and you become angry towards the entire community? Then Yahweh spoke to Moses, saying, speak to the community, saying, move away from the dwelling of Korah, Dathan and Abiram. So Moses stood up and went to Dathan and Abiram, the elders of Israel, and followed after him. He said to the community, saying, please turn away from the tents of these wicked men, and do not touch anything that belongs to them, or you will be destroyed with all their sins. And so they moved away from around the dwellings of the Korah and Dathan and Abiram. And Dathan and Abiram came out standing at the doorway of their tents, with their wives, sons, and little children. And Moses said, in this you will know that Yahweh has sent me to do all these works. It is not from my heart. If they die a natural death, or if a natural fate is visited upon them, Yahweh has not sent me. But if Yahweh creates something new, and the ground opens up its mouth and swallows them, all that belongs to them, and they go down alive to the Sheol, you will know that these men have despised Yahweh. And it happened as soon as he finished speaking all these words, that the ground was under them and split open. The land opened its mouth and swallowed them up, and their house, and every person that belonged to Korah, and all the property. They went down alive to the Sheol, and they all that belonged to them, and the land covered over them, and they perished from the midst of the assembly. All of Israel who were around them fled at their cry, because they said, lest the land swallow us up. And fire went out from Yahweh, and it consumed the 250 men presenting the incense. And Yahweh spoke to Moses, saying, say to Eleazar son of Aaron, the priest, take out the censers from among the place of the burning, because they are sacred, and scatter the fire outside. The censers of these who have sinned at the cost of their lives, let them be made into gilded lifting planting for the altar, because they presented them before Yahweh. They are holy, and they will be a sign for the Israelites. Eleazar, the priest, took the bronze censers, the ones who were burned presented, and they hammered them out thinly as planting for the altar. It was a memorial for the Israelite, so that no strange man who is not from the offering of Aaron shall approach the presence of Yahweh to burn a smoke offering. He will not be like Korah and his company, just as Yahweh has spoken to him by the hand of Moses. So, a important word that describes in a way that what Korah did is encroachment, right? And so encroachment is when you basically invade or step over the boundaries that are normally set, right? Elohim set specific boundaries, meaning that he prepared the tabernacle, he gave everybody a function, he gave everybody a purpose, right? And he chose, Elohim himself chose who was going to represent him and who was going to serve him in the land and in the tribes, right? Everybody had a purpose, everybody had a function, right? And so once Korah decided to round up all the leaders and basically say that he and all of Israel was able to fulfill what Aaron and Moses' duties were. Korah was encroaching and stepping over the line of what Elohim had already established and separated for him as holy, right? Aaron was established as the high priest. Aaron in Yom Kippur was the only one that can go inside the Holy of Holies, right? Moses, as the messenger of Elohim, right, as the chosen one by Elohim, he was the only one that can speak to Elohim and report to the people. But why is that? Because one, when Elohim manifested himself on Mount Sinai, they themselves chose Moses. They said, we cannot handle this. So, Moses, you speak to him and whatever Elohim says, and you tell us, we'll do. So, right there and then, we can see that Moses didn't choose himself. Moses didn't establish himself over the people. He just was doing what the people wanted and what Elohim wanted. Right? Moses is a middleman trying to fulfill the needs of everybody, really. Right? He's trying to complete Elohim's purpose, and at the same time he's trying to serve his people and give them his best so that they can reach their goal, which is the land that flows milk and honey. Right? And so Aaron was chosen by Elohim. Right? And so Israel was supposed to as a nation be priests, but they did the golden calf, right? And so from there the Levitical priesthood was separated, right? And so they were chosen. So the whole scenario that we're having here of Korah trying to overstep boundaries and basically make up a story saying that Moses has put himself over the people, and Moses is basically manipulating his power to take control of the people is in a way blasphemous, because as we see, Moses every single time falls to his face and pleads for his people, right? And a very important point that we have to understand, right, in the closing of this study is that our actions will dictate what our personal outcome will be. Meaning that if you choose, like I've said before, to disobey, right? If you choose to lose focus of the purpose, right? The people of Israel's purpose in this moment is to listen to Elohim and obey his command. That way that they can get to the land as smoothly as possible, right? And so the only thing that they had to do was to listen, right? They only had to listen and obey and do. But as human beings, right, and I feel like the biggest blessing and the biggest, in a way, personal way, as men, we have turned it into a curse, is the freedom to choose, right? The freedom of us being able to choose has basically derailed many of us into having this clash with Elohim, because our desires and our needs, right, what we want, our vision, sometimes gets in the way of the bigger picture, right? The bigger picture is not for Alex to be a light to the nations, or the bigger picture is not for, like Tito or Rico Jr. or Jonathan, right, from the Real Dudes, right, or Oscar, Emmanuel, right? It's not an individual thing, right? It's a collective, right? We support one another, right? We hold each other accountable, and we lead by example. That is the only way that you not only will be able to lead correctly, and that you will personally earn a higher position in the kingdom, right? The one that's willing to serve, right? The one that is focused on fulfilling Elohim's purpose, right? And not stepping over other people's toes or boundaries, or Elohim's boundaries, right, is the one that will be put in a higher place in the kingdom. Yeshua said it himself, the one that is willing to serve, the one that is willing to give himself completely to the purpose, which is, how can you, young man, young woman, right, parent, how can you be an intricate part of the bigger plan? Right, Korah taught us that if you're focusing on the other guy, right, and you're not focusing on yourself and on your function, not only will you lead yourself astray in disobedience, but sadly you will drag other people to be disobedient as well, right? And so the biggest point from this teaching, if I can say, is make sure that you focus on what you can control. Focus on you and your function, right? Focus on being obedient to what the Father has established. Don't make it so difficult on yourself, right? As long as you're willing to obey the commandments, obey what Elohim has established, everything else will flow, right? And I tell you by experience, I was willing to listen, obey, and everything hasn't been perfect, right? Because like I said before, you have to always be self-evaluating yourself, right? You have to grow, because that's the purpose of this. You have to grow every day. It's a gradual growth, but as long as you're focusing on your role and your function to make the community better and not bringing it down, you will be able to fulfill Elohim's purpose. So that's what I have for you guys this week. Thank you for everything from Wisdom and Torah Studios. I'm gonna try to see if we can borrow some of those, but I'm pretty sure you won't. But thank you for watching. You guys have a great week. Shavuot Tov and Shabbat Shalom. Thank you.